afternoon. I hope you can see me okay. I've actually come down to the bay near where I live, and I was going to get out of the car, but it's actually a king tide, so I'm going to turn this around. Oh my goodness. And you'll be able to see the water is actually splashing up. Hang on. I've got to work out how to turn it around. Okay, here we go. So isn't this beautiful? Beautiful scenery. Sorry. But as you can see on the footpath even, it's all wet. And if I go and stand outside and film this for you, we'll get wet together. So I thought I'd come down and talk to you today about anxiety is not who I am. So any minute now the waves will come up over again. Oh, they did over there. And yeah, they're all splashing up everywhere. And it's just, if I go outside for you, I am going to get soaked. So this is where I am today. This is what we call Bayside. It's part of Bayside anyhow. And across there is North Stradbroke Island, so you can always, all those overseas can Google that. But for the moment, I want to talk to you about anxiety and about it is not who I am. Just get settled. All right. So I went to our new church today, and here's what I know. Even though I was surrounded by a room full of people who I love and who love me, and even though I'd been into the building yesterday to help clean, and I've known a lot of these people for a long time, my brain was still triggered today. So even though I'm in a space where it's filled with love, and the love is so full on that we can feel it in our heart, my brain still got triggered. Sensory overwhelm, new place, new time, and I don't know why, and we never know why our brain gets triggered. We just don't. I can pinpoint a few factors, but nothing that should really impact anyone. But if we've got complex PTSD, it does impact us. So what happened for me was, I'm there and we're singing and my whole body breaks out in perspiration. So I go, okay, my brain's triggered. This is not who I am. Now, because I've been in the space where I've experienced the detachment from who I am, you know, when this is secure attachment as opposed to an insecure attachment, I know that when our brain gets triggered, it's like electricity floods our body and it hurts like heck. So I couldn't feel that actual impact, but what I could feel is my whole body breaking out in perspiration so much it was like I was having a shower. And in the end I had to sit down and I went, this is not who I am. I am in a safe environment. I'm in a space that is just filled with so much love, and yet my brain's going to town. So I went, okay, brain, go to town. It is what it is. So I just let the anxiety wash over me while I stayed centered in who I am. Now, it's taken a long journey to get to that point where I can do that, but I did, and I went, I have a choice. I can go outside. I could go and sit outside, not a problem. Not outside as in outside in the heat, but outside in the cafe. And I could process this, or I can stay and I can retrain my brain that even though it's having a primitive reaction to this, so the fear's going off, even to the point where I was in tears, I went, I can teach my brain that I can be calm, I can sit here and it keep having the response, and that's okay. So eventually I got through that. It took some time and I still had tears coming down because I could feel all the love in my heart, but even with all the love in my heart, my brain still went off with a fear response that I'm not safe. And like I said, we may never know why we respond that way. We can pinpoint certain factors, but It's the overwhelm as well. So then church was over. I went to my girlfriend who has my godchild and held my godchild, nursed my godchild in the crèche because she was tired and stuff. And my body, my whole system had calmed down. And then I went, okay. So then my godchild's father got me a coffee, so he took her off me and, you know, I had a coffee. And I went and sat and I was talking to my son. And I said to him, you've got no idea the triggers, and he was having them as well. And I said, this is just not who we are as people, and it impacts us so immensely. So we sat there and we talked and we laughed, and even when I got up to have some lunch, the chair was soaking because of the perspiration that was dripping off me. And I'm just like, oh, how embarrassing. And I went, you know what, it'll dry in 5 seconds because it's so hot here. But it is embarrassing, but I was with people who love me and understand. So I said to my son, see, I'm dripping, and even the back of look at my hair, it's a shocker. And I don't mean, oh, look at my hair, it's a shocker, oh, wow, I mean, my hair's been soaking in perspiration all morning because of the trigger. So what do we do? And honestly, we've got to keep going. We've got to keep retraining our brain that it can be triggered, but it's not who I am. I am in a safe environment, and I am safe to feel love. And you know what? When I sit here and think about it, I'm almost going to cry again. Because if that's not one of the chief things that we come out of our childhood knowing, is that I'm not safe to feel love. You know what? Thanks for listening, because it all makes sense. We are wired for love. We are wired for connection. And if we go through adverse childhood experiences and we've never experienced that love in our families, and no blame, look, they never experienced it. I can tell you, for 5 generations before me, on both sides of my family, they have never experienced this heart-driven love. And if you're a parent, you know what that heart-driven love feels like, because it's the love that you would walk on water for your kids. And that's how I feel about my work. I will do anything to make sure nobody has to spend the years I've had to spend just reclaiming your brain capacity. But as I sat there in that room full of deep, abiding love, and my heart's exploding and my eyes are crying because it was so loving, and yet my brain is still sitting there triggered in anxiety, it really just made sense. We have to come to a place where we can feel safe feeling love. Because love never felt safe to us as children, did it? Or if the world has shown us in some way, in some shape or form, that there's trauma, which is an absence of love, then we've got to teach our brains that we are safe to feel love, our heart is safe to feel love, and we are safe to be driven by love. Yeah. And for those of you who are Christian, you know that you are learning to feel safe, that you can be driven by the source of your love as well. Thanks, Charlene. Love you too. You know what? I love you guys so incredibly. You let me come on, and I've just sat here and worked out so much that we are working our way back to a space and a place where we can feel safe to love and be loved. But meanwhile, as we work our way back to that, our brain was trained as children that love was not safe. Hi, Dean. Is that amazing or what? Because, I was thinking about it today too. When I had to divorce my kid's father, the one thing I said to them, because see, I grew up in a divorced family, generational divorces. I said to my kids, no matter how your father behaves, you will always love him. And that love that we have for our parents is wired into us as kids. It's there. Our parents can do the worst things in the world to us and we still love them. And first step is to not avoid the fact that we love them. Look, my father is, I can't really say because if he ever saw it, he'll probably want to sue me. But we've had a very challenging relationship. But I love my dad. We don't speak anymore, but I love my dad. And we can't deny that love for our parents. Otherwise, we're denying a key part of ourselves. So I said to my kids always, you will love your dad, but you might not like his behaviour. And you know what? That's helped keep them sane through a lot of stuff. He's been deceased 10 years now, but my kids people will comment to me about my kids, well, they're adults, okay, about how loving and kind they are, because you know what? No matter what's happened to us, no matter what trauma we come through, the love that is innate within us to love others and be kind and caring and compassionate, that's what we live on. But we then take time to recognize when our brain is acting off, just big wave come, oh my goodness, you should see my windscreen, the waves are coming up so much, it's all wet. Sorry, I digress. So we can be sitting in this state of implicit love and our brain is still going to be triggered. It's not us, it's not our fault, it's how our brain got wired. But you know what? When we choose to continue in a space and place of love, our brain eventually has to get on board. It does, through our behaviour, through changing our beliefs, through understanding what's happening at a brain level, through putting language around it so we can wrap our mind around it. So I'm sitting there today and I'm going, okay, I'm triggered. What can I do to feel comfortable enough that I'm sitting in a space of love and my heart's breaking open in love, but my brain's going, it always reminds me of that Lost in Space program where the robot goes, danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson. It's like your brain's going off and it's going, danger, Linda, danger, Linda. And I have to sit there and tell my brain to, okay, you want to react, you want to respond as triggered, that's okay. But I want to sit here and I want to be in this space of love. Now, I can't avoid that outwardly. That fact that my brain is triggered is going to show all over my face and the rest of my body because I'm soaking in it. But I got there this morning and I had perspiration dripping off me everywhere. And I literally couldn't see. I could barely see. I said to my best friend, is that your dad? She said, no. I said, I'm sorry, I can't see at the moment. I literally couldn't see because my brain was triggered. So think of it like this, when our brain's triggered and we can't see, what choices do we end up making because our brain's triggered and we can't see what's really going on? Now, we can't see because when our brain gets triggered, the cortisol and adrenaline and everything rushes to our extreme parts of our body into fight and flight, etc. mode because it's getting ready to save us, right? But when we're sitting there in love and we know that we don't need saving and the brain's going off, we've got to have that love built inside of us so that it becomes okay to feel the trigger. Now, I'm going to have to go home and drink stacks of water. I can guarantee you one thing, having done this work for years, that water, after you've been triggered, is just, it's necessary. It's like being triggered just drains you of everything. So you want the water, and I just say it's like flushing the toxins out of our body. But I also think it's like nourishing for us as well. And it's also a sensory thing. Look, there's so many things involved. But I want you to know that anxiety is not who you are as a person. It's a brain response to what's happening in the environment around you that you don't have control over when the trigger happens, but we can learn to develop a response so that we can sit through the trigger and keep going. So even though I got triggered right from the get-go this morning, and then I got through it, and even then when I got triggered again when I went and sat out with my son and Steve to sit and talk and have lunch and stuff, at any stage I could have got up and left, but I felt good inside of me and with who I am. So I wanted to stay the course. I wanted my brain to experience that even though it thinks I'm not safe, I want you to experience that when we're in a place of love and etc., of a whole bunch of odd people joined together, because we're all different, we can still be safe. All right? Sorry, Brenda, hang on. I just have to press the button to see more. Brenda says, after the anxiety and the triggers and we finally find calmness, we look back and we laugh. You're doing good, lady. Yeah, I'm laughing now, but at the time I wasn't. But you know what I found too? I found that when I sat there, and even now it still chokes me up emotionally, I found when I sat there and just felt love in my heart, even though my brain's triggered and body's going off, I went, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to get through this no matter what. We're going to get through this. And one day the triggers are going to get less and less. And then I went, you know what? I want to walk this world and I want to speak this into wherever, whatever community, business, whatever will have me, because it's taking too many lives away, you know, and taking us out of our life when it's not us. It's not who we are. And I tell you what, if there's something that's driven me all my life, is all these physical responses and reactions and everything. I've always known they are not who I am. They are not me. And so I've fought for me to be able to be me, and not one who I had to be as a kid. I mean, stop that. But who I am and why I'm here. And I always believed that I was here for a reason. I don't know why I believed that, but I just did. I believed there had to be a reason why I was here and going through this, or having to face the challenges I face. And when I sat there, I went, you know what, girl, if you're going to travel the world, you're going to keep going into new places and you're still going to get triggered and da-da-da. And I went, you know what, I don't care. I can sit through a trigger without passing out these days. But people need to know that love wins. That all the way through all of our life, if we can fill our hearts with so much love and teach our brain that we're safe to feel love, then we need never look back. And we are the first generation that need to be able to stand up and say love wins, and we are going to teach our brains love wins. No matter what, you can be triggered, and all current research, scientific stuff says that for the rest of our life we are in recovery. So be it. If for the rest of our life we're in recovery, then let's get on with it. If I'm going to be triggered doing something, then let's get on with it. And I'm still going to love what I do, irrespective if I'm triggered. And I'm going to find my voice to say to whoever's around, listen, I'm triggered. Just give me, you know, some breathing space and we'll get there. But yeah, no more. We shouldn't have to hide at home. We shouldn't have to feel that we can't go out and have support, and that we can live a long, loving, kindness, compassionate life. But it starts with us first. Self-compassion for us first, and the love, feeling the love inside of us. And no more, you know, feeling unsafe around love, because that's they taught us to be afraid of our own self in a lot of ways too. Oh my goodness, I think I could go on and on, because there's so many things that having a trauma-filled childhood leaves us with that go against who we are as innate individuals, as loving, compassionate individuals. So yeah, we strip away the layers, and there may always be more, but we can do this. And in our family in here, we do it together, and we do it really well. I love you all heaps. Thanks for joining in, but I'm starting to get a bit dry in the throat, so I'm going to go home, drink a ton of water, and get all the videos ready for this week. Okay? I love you all so very much. This was before Charlene. Charlene just asked, was this before or after the sermon? This was before the service even started. So, sorry, just let me have a drink. Sorry. This all started, so even though I'd been down to the building yesterday, so what I find is a really crucial point is that our mind can map like where things are in buildings, how people will be, etc., etc. But because this was the first service in a new building and there were heaps of people there, like more than normal, there was the cognitive overload was phenomenal. So I got there and I was already triggered, and this is before, like half an hour before the service. I got there early to get a park because I knew there'd be lots of people coming from near and far who've moved on from the area from church, and they were coming back because this church is a really good church. They want to celebrate what a special moment today was, because if you're familiar with the story of in the Bible of the Israelites who wandered around in the desert for 40 years, yeah, we've been wandering around from a few buildings for a few years, but we finally have our own place. So for me, I was triggered already when I got there, and I had perspiration pouring down my face. My whole body was soaking in perspiration, actually. But yesterday I was aware that would happen because it was the first time I went to the building. So I had a towel with me and I just kept wiping my face. But today I didn't think it would happen because I thought my mind had mapped where everything was set out. But we never know what will trigger us. So, and I was there, I was surrounded by my best friends next to me and behind me. But still my brain got triggered. But when you feel the love in your heart and flooding your entire being, you can still feel the trigger happening. But because you're centered in who I am, I know who I am, I know that the trigger is a brain response as opposed to it's not part of me, who I am, where I am in my life now. And there's a big difference. When we can differentiate between that, we don't take on the emotional response that normally comes with a trigger. So this purely stayed at a physical response in my brain and my body, but the emotional response wasn't there because I know who I am. I knew I was safe. Okay. All right. I better go and take some Ventolin too. I don't think I'm breathing very well, but we'll get there. And I thought this was really important to share, that throughout our journey, we're going to be at different stages, and all through life, as long as we know who we are, then we'll be able to stand through and walk through the triggers, and our life can keep improving. And because our brain's plastic, it will eventually learn that, oh, well, I'm going to get triggered, but it's not going to have the great impact on my physical body as it always has in the past. Like, if I'd sat there that long through a trigger once before, I would have passed out. I would have had a seizure, okay? So my trauma, when I get triggered, in the past has caused seizures, okay? So for me to have sat there that long today and get triggered twice, it shows how much work I've done. For me, I can see that in me, because in the past I definitely would have had seizures. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I can laugh now, but at the time it's not funny. I see the irony of it all and how much work we actually have to do to get our brain and body back on track with who I am, yeah, as an adult too. And we make those choices. We make the choice to stand up and be well and fight for our life and who we are and what we're here to do as people too. We do. We take that fight up, and I think it's important that we do. We stand up and fight for the right for us to have a loving life, and a life that's driven by our own inner convictions. Because if there's another thing that I'm learning lately, is that how our values and our morals, because of the trauma, we can so easily put them aside because we were trained as children to put all of ourselves aside for other people. And it's really good for me to have remained single this long, because I'm really reinforcing what kind of behaviour I will and won't accept from other people that become close to me as well. And I know it's okay for me to do that now, whereas once upon a time I would never say anything. You know, I would never say, oh, well, your behaviour is inappropriate for me and I don't want to be around that. And it's not... Let me explain. If you don't find somebody's behaviour inappropriate, that's okay. That's okay. But for me, part of what I went through as a child took so much away from me that now that I've healed so much, I won't let anybody, you know, within the sphere of 3, I call it. So have 3 people closest to you who know you the best and have the deepest respect for you, no matter what. So if people don't have respect for you, then walk away. Because the world's full of billions of people and there's always people who will have respect. So I'm learning to say no to other people in a whole different way. And it's up to us to learn that we've got to say no, but also how we can say no. Because we also weren't allowed to say no as kids. It's just crazy. It's really crazy making what happened to us, you know. But the good news is we can get back on our feet too. There's always good news that we can get back on our feet and reclaim our strength, reclaim love, and feel safe in our love. That love has boundaries too, you know. Yeah. I like that. Love has boundaries too. All right, gang, I'm going to go home. I'm going to process this even more. And I'll see you doing my Facebook Lives. Now that the study's over, I'll be back to do my Facebook Lives Monday to Friday. Same time, same bat channel. And I love you all heaps and have a great rest of the day. All right, bye for now.